strength, mobility, protection. These were the fundamental design principles behind the powered combat infantry armor. One of the defining innovations of the late 21st century, power armor was commissioned by the United States government on the eve of the Chinese invasion of Alaska. Westech, the contractor commissioned to create the first power armor suits, would rush to create a fieldable prototype, although this would take several years. The first functional power armor model was the T-45. Deployed to the Anchorage front line in 2067, the T-45 made waves against the Chinese invaders, allowing a single soldier to carry heavy ordnance into battle. While the T-45 was lacking in mobility, its use alongside another recent invention, the fusion cell, was a game changer for the American war effort. While the T-45 was an undeniable success, it wasn't enough to repel the Chinese invaders from American soil. In 2069, Westech was commissioned again to create an improved model of power armor, learning from the flaws of the T-45. The following years were spent refining and improving this new armor unit until, after months of testing at Fort Strong, Massachusetts, the first suits of T-51 power armor were deployed to the ongoing counter-invasion of China in June of 2076. The T-51 was much lighter and more mobile than its predecessor, due to its shell built from polymantine composites and added gyroscopic stabilizers and shock absorbers. With the use of this new and improved suit of armor, the Americans quickly broke a decade-long stalemate in Alaska, eventually leading to a Chinese retreat. While the T-51 cleaned house during the Anchorage reclamation and on the Chinese mainland, a new armor type began development to bolster the numbers of mechanized cavalry units, both foreign and domestic. Although the T-60 power armor was visually similar to the T-45, the newer model made many improvements upon its predecessor, such as thicker armor plating and more flexible joints. As the T-60 was completed, it was deployed to both mechanized units overseas in China and to peacekeeping forces in the United States. As the war raged on, power armor began to appear in the civilian sector. The major businesses of America used this symbol of military might not only to show their support for the war effort, but to help spread the American spirit through capitalism. Suits branded with Nuka-Cola, Vim, sugar bombs, and more started to appear across America, while some companies even attempted to develop power armor of their own. Grafton Steel's Project Phoenix attempted to create a suit which would allow a worker to resist high temperatures and service machinery without shutting down the whole steelworks, but only one helmet was ever produced. A project with a bit more success was the EX-17 excavator project of the Garahan Mining Company. Using a combination of black titanium and ultracite, materials unique to Appalachia, Garahan was able to create a suit which would not only protect miners from underground dangers, but also increase the speed that a human miner could work. The excavator power armor was unveiled to the public in February of 2077, though only 5 suits were ever produced, as they were vastly outperformed by the robotic miners of Garahan's rival, Hornwright Industrial. At an unknown time, the United States Secret Service began development on their own suit of power armor. The result was the T-65, a set of armor that followed the design principles of the Secret Service's existing equipment, instead of following in the footsteps of Westech. While no suits of T-65 are known to have been built, the schematics were sealed away in the Secret Service's personal vault, Vault 79. As the American invasion of mainland China continued, development on a new suit of power armor began. Labeled with an X to denote its experimental status, very few suits of the new X-01 were ever produced. One of these suits was given to the scientists of the Nuka-Cola Corporation as part of Project Cobalt, where enhancements to the armor using strontium-90 were tested. Progress on the X-01's development, however, stalled on October 23, 2077. The remnants of the United States government and military-industrial complex, now known as the Enclave, had foreseen the explosive end of the war and fled to various remote facilities, chief among them being Control Station Enclave, a Poseidon Energy oil rig off the coast of California. Here, the Enclave continued their research on experimental pre-war technology, including power armor. While many of these prototypes failed to improve on the XO-1, in 2220, the Enclave was able to finalize the design of the experimental armor, creating the Advanced Power Armor Mark I. Advanced Power Armor was superior to its pre-war counterparts in nearly every way. Built from lightweight metal alloys with ceramic casing reinforcing key points, the Enclave's new armor was unmatched in both protection and mobility. It even has air conditioning. Even though the Mark I was the most advanced power armor suit to date, the Enclave continued to improve upon its design. The result was, eventually, the Advanced Power Armor Mark II, produced at the Raven Rock Mountain Complex after the destruction of the oil rig. The Brotherhood of Steel, a quasi-religious paramilitary order at odds with the Enclave, eventually nicknamed the armor the Black Devil because of its combination of power and style. Unlike the Mark I, which was composed of both metals and ceramics, the Mark II was built entirely out of ceramic components, making it extremely light in comparison to the other sets of power armor. Several suits of the Mark II even came with Tesla devices attached, which provided the user with extra protection against energy attacks. As the Enclave prepared for war against the Brotherhood of Steel, they turned to the past to find new ideas for their war machines. What they found was Hellfire, a power armor prototype that existed as early as 2080, but development on the project was abandoned at an unknown time. The armor began production at Adams Air Force Base, which had been occupied by the Enclave since the destruction of the oil rig. While resources were diverted away from other projects in order to fuel production of Hellfire armor, creation of the armor ultimately ended with the destruction of the Enclave's mobile base crawler. These are the major military and commercial power armors of America, but many still remain to be explored. The Industrial Union power armor of the Pit, the scrap metal armor of the Wastelands Raiders, and many more. But those secrets are yet to be revealed.